Hey, everybody. Doesn't look like there's very many of us tonight. Hi, Roxana. I'm assuming, again, like you said, you can hear everything we say, you just can't have us hear you. Your audio is having issues, correct? Okay. In the 2 seconds I've been sitting here, I lost my pencil already. So how are you guys all tonight? You make it through the weekend okay? Unscathed?
I survived.
Yeah, you and I are on similar schedules.
Yeah.
For the rest of you, we both had somebody graduate Friday night, a graduation party on Saturday, and associated other students' graduation parties all weekend, and yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm behind on grading. I was not planning on it taking that much time. This week we are working on, since everybody's already been on before, you kind of have an understanding of who's who. We'll hop right in and get this over with so you can enjoy the gorgeous night outside, for any of you that get to go back outside. This week we are working with augmented reality in a way. Augmented learning and any is a better maybe term to use for it. Augmented reality has been used for using Eurasma, but it's starting with virtual reality kind of expanding. People are starting to swing it into different meanings. And so I just want to be kind of clear that it's just, you could use QR codes and have augmented learning, or Eurasma and have augmented learning, or another website or other method of using it. I'm not going to go buy software or a pair of goggles or something to see your stuff if you did it. So with something fancy. So if you have access to it and that's what you want to use, that's all fine and dandy, but I need to be able to see it in some way, shape, or form and to see how it functions without having to spend a couple $100 on stuff. Because I mean, a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there doesn't sound like much until you have 25 people doing it every week. And then that's, after a week of that, I went, oh no, this isn't going to work. So that's why I always say make it free, make it available to share out or whatever without paying for it. So just a few words about the stuff this week. If you're doing QR codes, you have a little bit heavier task on what you create because QR codes are very simple. If you do a Google search, you can find a spreadsheet that lets you put in your URLs of anything you find online, and it automatically just gives you the code really quickly. You can save that spreadsheet for yourself and just enter your URLs in for like YouTube or something like that, and it makes it very easy to work with. You can also use a lot of other things for QR codes, and those of you that are working in non-standard kind of situations, a lot of times the QR codes are used for storage, for classifying things, to provide training videos on the fly. My brother-in-law works at a metal shop, and they actually use them to scan all of their software and things like that, but then they also have them right by the machines so that if you need to be refreshed on what you're doing on the machine, you scan it with the iPads that they have around the shop for inventory purposes. You scan it with that, you can watch a video that tells you how to set all the things to whatever specs it needs to be, and it's right there. So they use the QR codes a lot in a lot of different kind of interesting ways. The augmented learning with Eurasma is one of my favorite kind of things right at the moment. I've seen some really cool things that have been made by students. I have emails out to students that were in my 290 freshman, on-campus tech in the classroom last semester to let you take a look at their things, but nobody's reading their email this summer. I've had one student get back to me, and they were like, sure, use it, and it's not one that I would show you. So some of the other students really had an easy time with it. I've had people really struggle with it. So just a couple hints. Eurasma, if you're using it, is better if you try to do it on your laptop or on a desktop computer and not on your iPhone or a smart device, to build your trigger images and your layers. It's pretty simple to do that. They've upgraded a couple times over the last year. So if you run into any issues, shoot me an email, because they've updated it. Last semester when they did it, they updated it between when I walked somebody through doing something on a Tuesday to a Friday when someone else was finishing. They had updated and fixed a couple things. So it works pretty well, and you can do some really interesting things. I will say, both QR codes and the Eurasma augmented learning, people have said, well, what's the difference between that and just a web page with a bunch of links? Part of it is the student choice, allowing the students to pick what they want to do without having it in a structured hierarchy. One of the aspects of it is that if you have an iPad classroom or a situation with those iPads, you can access it and get the information pretty quickly that way and allow the students some movement and things like that around the room. It doesn't fit every situation. Sometimes a web page can give you just as great of stuff going on. Sorry, I have the window open. It's loud out there. Sometimes a web page can give you just the equal amount of information and just the equal amount of links to things. This is just another way of doing it. It's a nice way to kind of showcase your technology abilities, as well as, like I said, giving the students a little bit of choice, making it sometimes more interesting and engaging, and being able to put content out there for parents and things like that. One more use that I've seen the QR codes used really well with is some of the parents were given an overview at an open house of what the QR code was on a worksheet, and then the teacher provided a workthrough on some of the math problems because she was really struggling with the parents more than the kids on the new way that they were doing some of their math things. And so she recorded a little video of her, just a screencast of her writing on her iPad and solving a problem every week. And so she would include that with a QR code on the worksheet so the parents could scan it and see how to help their students at home with their problems that they were working on. So that's just one idea. If you have other ideas, feel free to run with it. But if you're really struggling or you have questions or you don't know what to do, then email me and we'll figure something out that'll work for your context, at least for the most part. The other thing we're talking about this week then, does anybody have any questions? I promise your stuff will get graded over the next day or so. I promise. I had to drive Leslie, my daughter that just graduated, I had to drive her to Michigan today so she can audition tonight, right now actually, for the choir here at Central Michigan. And then we have orientation all day tomorrow. I have to drive home because she leaves for Germany on Saturday morning for an exchange for the summer. So I've been a little behind. So do you have any questions or anything you want to ask about the assignments this week, about wrapping things from last week up? No? Okay, so this week the topic that goes along with it is differentiated learning, differentiation. There's some pieces built into the lessons on differentiation, but there is a lot of reading to get over all this stuff, and there is sometimes a steep learning curve for people that are not necessarily real comfortable with some of the technology, so I didn't want to overload you too much with having to look at differentiation as well. So what is your definition of differentiated learning or differentiated instruction? And you guys can go ahead and talk. There's only a couple of you. And Roxana can't talk. You can just chat. Anybody have one?
I guess mine is just changing your instruction to fit the needs of the varied learning styles of the class.
Okay. Does anybody want to add to that? No? Okay. That's a really good way to start with it. I like to think of differentiated instruction as meeting the needs of the students along the lines of the IEPs, or individualized education plans. When it starts to get into learning styles, I kind of bulk at it, although a lot of people will really define it as that, because I don't care if a fifth grader likes to learn in a certain way. They need to learn in a certain way sometimes. So it is structuring your assignments so that they have very good definition from Roxana just popped up. Appealing to different learning abilities, interests, and styles, auditory learners, and kinesthetic. That goes right along with what Josh was saying. It's tailoring the instruction to meet the needs of the students. A lot of times this will be in allowing them to complete their assignments or show their competencies in different ways. And it can also mean having different kinds of assignments that would appeal to different learning styles. I do want to caution you that just because I like to read doesn't mean that I shouldn't have to do something where I have to draw even if I'm not bad at it, because you need to work to strengthen those mind muscles. You want to think of it in those kind of terms. And sometimes, especially younger students, doing it the way that they want to do it or like to do it is not always what's best for them. You need to eat your broccoli, okay? But tailoring it for the students and allowing them some choice is a really great way to think about differentiating the instruction or the learning, allowing them to pick topics, allowing them to develop questions that they want to investigate. For example, in science, having different inquiry projects where they can kind of pick at what interests them out of a broader topic. Some people think differentiated instruction, if you're going to do it that way, means that it has to be willy-nilly, like the teacher has no control, or the person that's providing the training has no control. But it could be as simple as providing, here are 5 choices for training this week for your professional development. We're going to be looking at this, or this. Have a little vote. Okay, so these are the 2 that people want to learn about, and we're going to differentiate our instruction by allowing you to attend this workshop or this workshop. And you can pick which one fits your needs. That's not a very broad definition of it, but it is a way to make it manageable, because I've seen people try to do differentiated instruction. Yes. Choice of how to learn is watch a movie. Yeah. Or make a poster with all your friends and nobody does any work because you're all, talking about what's happening this weekend or whatever. So being able to provide choices is sometimes a really great way to do it. There's a foreign language teacher that I observed his classroom one time, who does a lot of really interesting things with the way that he structures his class. And his way of differentiating his instruction was to provide a big, almost like a bingo chart at the beginning of each 9 weeks. And it had different ways that the homework and the assignments could be turned in. And the students were allowed, for example, to do 2 homework assignments that they turned in as auditory files, audio files. So they were able to speak their answers. And then another one was, they had to make a poster. And sometimes I've seen people do it as well, where different things are worth different points. And over the 9 weeks, you have to add up to 100 points. So the different ways that they're turning in fits the way that they would like to present the material to you and demonstrate mastery of it. But not giving them, full-blown, every single time I'm going to make a PowerPoint because I'm really comfortable with PowerPoints. It forces them to pick and choose what they want to do with it a little bit. The same thing works with adults. We tend to be very good at doing what we're comfortable with, or very comfortable with what we're doing that is easy for us, or we can do it very well. And I think sometimes older learners are much harder to push to try new things or to turn in things in different ways, which is one reason you guys got the structure of this class with all the different artifacts, because you have to try it out to see how it works. Not saying you have to use it every time or all the time or ever in your classroom, but at least you've been exposed to it and you can say, I don't like it because of this, this, and this. So is that was what I was describing, Josh, the tic-tac-toe choices designed for an assignment?
I think so, where they have like 9 choices and then there's at least one difficult one no matter which way they go. So they get to choose 3, and as long as they make a tic-tac-toe, they'll have, they can still choose 3, but they choose a selection which at least one of them is difficult. So
no, I've not heard of that, but his was structured very much like that, but his was over 9 weeks and they had major assignments for different places. So Yeah. That's good. You guys have good ideas. Now I know what it's called now too. I've seen a lot of times also people have the students help design the rubric with a little guidance, so you kind of just have to push them your way as well as what they want, and that kind of gives them a little way to differentiate their assignments by allowing them some choice. I think what my next question is. I actually have the questions all wrote down because I tend to get in the middle of talking and then I forget what I'm doing. I have no idea where I put them now. So how have you folks differentiated your learning inside of your classrooms or inside of your work environment? Josh has mentioned the tic-tac-toe, and Roxana also said about giving them some structure with their choices. Is there anything else that you guys have used? Or I know that Christine and Eric, you're not in a traditional classroom setting. So are there ways that you've differentiated work for people in a non-traditional learning environment?
Only thing that I could think about is, well, like we do a lot of after school programming and stuff for the kids. And so we try to plan activities that are fun and engaging and where they really don't know that they're learning math or science, that they're learning the things that they need to know for school. We try to do it because they've been in the classroom all day long and then they come to us. So we try to make the activities. And then when we find the students are struggling with something, then we'll pull back and try to find a different way to learn or teach it. We also let the students do a lot of leading. We'll give them say, tasks, and then they have to come up with how they're going to solve the problems. Or we have many different various activities that we do. But our program has a lot of hands-on activities and things that they do in the classroom. Such as tomorrow we have bees coming in and they're going to be hiving bees tomorrow. So that's something, and they've been preparing and getting the hives ready all since then and planting the plants and stuff like that. And they had to come up with what kind of plants they needed to, make the plans for what kind of plants they needed to plant and stuff like that.
So do you assign them roles or do they self-assign roles?
We tend to, sometimes they do on their own, but we tend to at least, this is what we'd like you to do. And then we let them, have a chance. Do you feel comfortable? Sometimes we don't give them that choice. We just say, go ahead and do it. But that's
how you're working with it. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, so in a professional setting, when we're dealing with the technical stuff, what I've done is to start at a really high level where we're doing PowerPoints about theories and best practices. And then the next step is I'll go in and I'll show them things that I've done and give them examples. And then the next step we're going to do probably next week on this particular professional development series that I've put together is I'm going to have the computer and they're all going to have their laptops, and I'm going to give control around to each person, and then we're all going to watch one person facilitate the technical, the coding that the programming that we're doing. And then the step after that is each person will have a task, and then they'll bring their section of the program in, and we'll put all the programs together into one system so that we can have everybody participating. And that's kind of how I structured the professional development that we're doing right now. It seems to be working pretty well. People enjoy it.
So are the students then picking the kind of coding that they're doing for you, like out of a list, or just when they get their own piece that they're doing?
So what the choices that they get to make are that there's going to be some different tasks, and they'll choose the tasks they want to code. The actual coding and how we're doing it is been predefined, but they at least get to choose what the problem they're solving.
So you're giving them some differentiation with some structure to it as well, just because of the needs of the course.
Right, because as you know, this application, hopefully by the time we get done, is something we'll use at the university, and so we have to follow the university's best practices.
Oh.
We get to do, we have some structure to it, but we definitely have a lot of flexibility too.
Okay. Do you have anything that, Roxana added as well, off in the chat box if you haven't seen that. Okay, giving them more help as they needed it. Yeah, the other way we've also differentiated in the classroom when I've taught the co-taught particularly, where there might be 11 students in the class and 2 of them are students that really, really struggle with school, but they are not defined as a student with learning needs that have to be supported. And then other ones have various levels of support, whether it's being read to or whatever, for their work. And so sometimes just by using technology, we can differentiate their assignments by allowing them to use apps that would read if they need it to. Or there's also, the name of the website is I'm drawing a blank, but there's a news website that allows you 3 or 4 different grade level ranges for the same topic, so that they can have it the same content area but differentiated to their actual reading level. So that would also be a way that you can differentiate the instruction, particularly using some technology to do that. I had a blind student in chemistry. Yes, Newsella. There's another one too. The Curricula is dead now, but Curricula used to run. It was where you could upload PDFs and that. But there's another one that goes along with that they sent out to us whenever they closed off their thing. I'll think of it and shoot it out to everybody whenever I'm done. But Newsella is one of the ones I was thinking of. There's another one as well. Those are different ways that I've seen things differentiated because of abilities and things like that in the classroom. Giving students problems that make them think harder, even if it's not work harder, is another way to do that. By if you have an LMS in your classroom using Google Classroom or Canvas or something like that, sometimes it's fairly easy to excuse me, to group the students and be able to shoot out problems that, you only have 3 problems for this class, but maybe some of them require a lot more thinking to actually put the pieces together because those students need the challenge. They don't want to have 15 extra problems to do, but giving them 15 or 3 problems that really make them think a lot more deeply about it, and something that's more aligned to their instructional needs, whether they agree or not, is sometimes a good thing. And do you folks have any technologies that you use to help you differentiate, other than, for example, Newsella that Josh had just shared? Nothing in particular? That's not a problem. It happens. I was trying to think. Well, I had another one, but I can't think of it right this second. But a lot of the times whenever you're assigning work to students, some of the groups can be given different, if they're given different topics, some of the topics are sometimes more in-depth. We've also are able to go in-depth with them. We've also given students some very structured inquiry research type activities where, and especially in the co-taught classroom, we provided them with their materials to research, like a targeted set of links. And we strategically selected the topic and the links that were provided to the students to match them up to their reading level and their ability level. So they were able to be really successful and have this nice presentation that they did for the class. The same as all the other ones, but we purposely behind the scenes kind of selected the topic that they received. We did that in Wikispaces because you're able to group students and assign them their own page and their own content. And another way people have done it is using some templates and having the students be able to select a template versus doing it on their own. If they need a little bit more structure, sometimes that helps. Reflex Math, is that a bot program, Roxana? Or is that a free program? I've not heard of it. Okay. All right. There's some other ones that are bot programs that really allow you to differentiate. And I know even Study Island will target the program, the practice problems that students use to their ability level if they miss a question. It's kind of an AI, artificial intelligence kind of thing where it uses different algorithms to provide problems to the students based on what choice they made when they missed the problem, or what choice they made if they got the problem right, the length of time, and that kind of thing. The last one. Okay, so the final question that I really had for you was, what are some ways that you think you could differentiate instruction in the future? What are some technologies or some different things that you've seen as you've been in the part of the master's program? If you've looked at other people's work, even though we haven't been deliberately selecting to differentiate instruction over the course of this semester, but over your past year or so, what are some things that you think you could bring into your classroom to differentiate it? And I think Khan Academy could be considered differentiated learning tool because it does provide enrichment especially. But I think having the instructional videos that students can watch and rewatch at their own pace is a way to differentiate your instruction as well.
Yeah, I think it's the same way. Having a website with specifically dedicated to just providing more resources for the students beyond the classroom. So if they don't get it, the first time around, there's somewhere that they can go to further their understanding. That's something that I don't have yet. My students are also limited in their access outside of school, so it would only benefit those students who, it wouldn't benefit the whole of the students that really would need it most. But I think that's something I would like to have is, all those resources. Because a lot of times there's a lot of stuff that I want to be able to show, but there's only a limited amount of time in class. So just having all those extra things organized for the students, so if they want to explore something further, or if they don't get it, then they have a place to go to do that, specifically designed around the curriculum we're studying.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree. Now, Alicia, I don't think that it's designed for differentiated learning, but it would allow students the opportunity to go back through the material at their own pace. And because of that, it could be used for differentiated learning, differentiating the instruction either for students that were way ahead and providing them with extra content, or for ones that were needing some remedial materials and they could go back through and watch. I think it's Tyler DeWitt is one that I love for chemistry. He's a YouTube guy. He's from MIT. He does chemistry, and he just does little tutorials. And one of the students actually 2 years ago brought it to me, and I swear that he followed the same procedure that I did to get an empirical formula exactly step by step. It was nothing different that I hadn't shown them on the board, but this kid came in and he's like, Mrs. Wobble, I found the greatest thing in the entire world. His name's Tyler DeWitt, and he does all this stuff for chemistry, and it's great. Why don't you do it that way? Okay, and he had half the class watching Tyler DeWitt every night to see how to do the problems, even though I showed them in class. I swear, might have been one or two small, tiny details that he did differently, but they just thought he was great. So sometimes those extra resources are a mental thing for differentiating their instruction, as well as the basic material. Because I did screencasts, and I did video notes on the whiteboard that I captured for them and gave them the PDFs of it with some auditory stuff, but it was just what they perceived as being really great instruction that allowed them to do that. And that was an extra resource that allowed them to watch it many times and to differentiate the instruction by providing them with something that supported their learning in a way that they saw beneficial, as well as something that helped their scores. So do you have anything else that you wanted to bring to the table about this? We're going to be short tonight. Last week ran really long. This week we're doing it. Okay. If there's nothing else, you're free to go. If you have questions, you can hang around for a while. Whatever. Those of you that are close to Mount Pleasant, I got something really cool today that I'll show you if you want to stick around for a few moments, but you don't have to. You can get going. I got my doodle pens today. I'm so excited. So if you're close, if you're within the area and you want to figure out a lesson sometime and have us come over and use them or whatever. I could bring students, or I could come myself and let you borrow them. All kinds of really cool stuff. I've not used them yet. They're called a 3-doodle bundle, and they're 3D drawing pens. And my daughter and I are going to play with them tonight when she's done with her. Have a good night. Any of you that have to leave, go. But if you're in the area and you want to, turn your mics on if you're left. So this is what the pen looks like. And you put a piece of plastic into it, and then it works a lot like a hot glue gun, and you can draw with it by pushing the button to make it go slow or fast. There's about 4 different types of plastic, and like some of the things people have made with them, like it comes with this little book here. So like that's all done with the 3D pen. Obviously not me because I'm not artistic, but I'm thinking, like here are other projects people have done, and I am thinking of like they had some things here with leaves, and I was thinking of like my great thoughts on it right now are biology, cells, looking at cellular structures, drawing them out, using it. I've looked at doing molecules with chemistry because of the 3-dimensional aspects of that. Looking just at design and how students try to do something, and then how they just the whole design process is what another thing I'm interested in. Like how do they kind of watch it and do it wrong and figure it out, go back and try it again. And I want to look at grit. I have a friend who works in early childhood, and she had her students using the low temperature one and writing out their letters with the plastic. A lot of practice for little kids though. But,
now, eventually, will each student have a set of pens, or are you?
These are basically my pens, and I have enough that I could do a classroom set. That if somebody wanted to do a project and had a use for them, I can take the pens to them, or they can use them once they learn how to do it. But we should have enough. Hopefully, in the next year, we'll be checking them out to people in the area. But for right now, I can bring them to you.
How much does a resource like that cost?
I wrote a grant for it to get the set now because I'm working with an elementary school. This is about $100 for a pen. They run an educator pack. The box that I was showing you has 12 pens in it, a bunch of other supplies, and a bunch of plastic, like 1,200 pieces of plastic to get you started, and it runs about $1,000. It's about 50% off. So okay. I'm really excited.
I can tell. Do they have to be charged?
They plug into the wall, but they do come with 2 battery packs.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could draw flowers and do pollination with it, and you could do stop motion videos if you had enough pieces built with it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of good resources that are good to do with it now. Since I got the grant, now I have to figure out more what I want to use it for, rather than just the basic ideas I had to start with, because there's a few of them, but not extensive. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you. So that's my new tech tool for the week. So I'm all excited. So, do you have any questions about the assignments? Do you have any questions about using Erasmus? Do you have any questions about anything else that or not yet? I'll be around the end of the week if you need some help with things.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric, I saw you.
Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out what I'm going to do for this assignment.
Okay.
I understand how QR codes work. I did look at the different applications, and they seem, I understand how they work pretty well. I just am trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. This may not work within your online context as well as it would work with something else.
Right.
So if you were to think about it, if you were doing a face-to-face training with these people, in maybe your department or in the other department that you're working with and doing the online school stuff, if you were to work with them in a face-to-face environment, how could you use it then? Could you put directions or a video of how to do the code, or here's the line of code, this is what it looks like when it's running. Things like that. Okay. That would work. You can link it to
using the application then.
Yeah, I would, or you could use QR codes for the same thing. If you had them, here's a piece of code and here's a YouTube video that shows somebody walking through it, that's a fine resource as well. If you're using the Erasma, then you only have to have, I think, 4 trigger items, four pieces that you're attaching to it. It could be an online quiz. It could be a video to watch. It could be a picture of something. It could be a website that provides more information. And the QR codes are basically the same thing.
Sure.
But if you were doing a worksheet with them, then you would have 8 different places, because a QR code is a lot smaller learning curve than picking up the other software.
But the idea is they have something tactile or digital, and they're going to use either a QR code or the app to reference an outside resource.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Think of it like if you gave me a web page, your blog page, and
Sure.
you had 8 links on it, and you wanted me to go and watch the video and do these kind of things.
Okay.
Basically, it's another way to structure that. And that's why I was saying, in your case, a web page is probably going to be much more beneficial. But if you have a kindergarten class and you want them to do stations and you can't be at every station and you want them to pick up the iPad that's there and scan it to get their directions, then it makes it very beneficial for them.
Well, and I took my kids to the zoo this weekend, and in all the different exhibits, they had the QR codes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It was very neat to see that.
So if you're like a Boy Scout leader or you run a youth group, you could do an activity for them. It doesn't have to be your work context.
Okay.
I don't care what kind of setting that works for you. A lot of teachers tend to do it for their classroom, but if you're at a work setting, for like you and all 3 of you that are on here right now, do not work in a traditional K-12 classroom. And so it may be much more beneficial to have a set of QR codes for Bible quiz practice, or for your soccer team. These are the games. Here's the parents' worksheet. Here's the map link for each one of the games that we're going to be going to. Here's the directions on what you need to bring or whatever.
Okay, great. That's helpful.
That way. Yeah, and the same thing for the both of you. You could, Christine, with the bees things that you guys are working with, you could put QR codes on their flowers, and these ones are going to make great honey. These ones, the honey's going to taste like poop. Based on that, I've seen people do a lot of work in, like Eric said about in the zoos. I've seen QR codes used in a lot of, or the other ones. There's been a whole bunch of stuff done at Penn State in their Arboretum with the Erasma app, where you can scan the trigger image and it's going to pop you up information about the different stages of the trees, some information about it, what the name is, what the seed looks like versus a sapling versus a mature leaf.
Mm-hmm.
All of those kind of pieces I've seen work with QR codes and with the Erasma. So both of them work pretty well in informal learning settings that is not a traditional classroom. Sometimes even better. You don't expect the students to be tied to a laptop whenever they're, at the Arboretum. So, any other questions you happen to have?
No, none at this time.
Not
I guess
yet?
I'll be emailing you.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll walk you through. I'm getting pretty good at figuring out where you're going wrong with these things, because honestly, I wanted to give you guys something that's new, something that's a little bit more cutting edge, even though some people have really seen it now, but something that's on the verge of being kind of common use, but not quite yet. We need to stretch a little bit too.
Yeah, I would say this is the first technology app that I've seen. This Erasma app and the other one, the 4D app. This is the first time I've actually seen this stuff, and everything else I've done in all my other classes I've already seen before. So it's kind of neat to see something new.
Yeah, that 4D, the Elements 4D thing. Oh my gosh. The night I found that, I printed it out, and I was just like, well, like I am with the pens tonight. I was like The Kid in the Candy Shop. My kids and I sat on the table. Leslie blew off a calculus test, and we played with that for probably 3 hours. And my kids don't get too excited about the technology anymore because they think I'm just wacko. So, but there's another thing. If you're liking that, Eric, there's if you Google, I'll find it for you. You can build yourself a little hologram projector with out of a piece of plastic or a transparency. 3D hologram. I'm getting you guys.
Get ready, guys, because you're about to learn how to make your very own hologram.
I'm throwing it into the chat window. There's a YouTube video for it. But it tells you to use a CD case and to cut it with a box cutter knife. I don't recommend that, especially if you're doing it on your dining room table without a cutting board underneath it, because I would have killed my kids for what I did to my table. But, you know, it was me. So it's really hard to do it with the CD case, but if you get a really good clear one, it works really nice. But we use the plastic clamshells that like cookies come in. Number 6 plastic. You can make shrinky dinks with them, number 1. But number 2, if you cut them out and tape them together, you can do this hologram with it. And you just set it right on top of your phone, and they have videos that are there. There's also links to how to create the videos. And it gives you a flat hologram, so it's not really a hologram, but it's really close, and the kids are, just amazed by it. But it floats like right there. It's just, it's pretty amazing. So, then my cousin, who's an engineer, had to one-up me and buy a big, huge sheet of plexiglass. And, he has a tabletop multi-touch table for his work. And so he made one probably like a foot by a foot. Wow. And he had like a 6-inch parrot sitting in there. So, of course, I was really jealous. And then his 8-year-old daughter had Elsa from Frozen singing in it. So, there's really cool stuff out there.
If we want to get kind of creative with some of this, will we just take a video of ourselves doing it then? Something like that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Or you can use found anything. If you want to teach everybody how to make the 3D hologram projector with Eurasma or your QR codes, that's fine. Here's a link to how you make it. Here's me doing it. Any way you guys want to tweak the assignments, as long as you make it a learning context and you can think of a learning objective, even if it's very informal, I am fine with that.
Great.
Because, yeah.
Looks fun. Maybe I'll attempt.
Oh, the kids can do it. And you can use transparencies even. If you have the printable transparencies, somewhere online there's a template that has the pieces put together. You just cut it out and tape one side. It really works well for like 3rd and 4th graders. We did it with them, so yeah. But now that I've gone all geeky on you guys tonight.
No problem.
If you have any other questions or anything else you need to know or want to know, then holler and just email me this week, and I will get right back to you. And other than that, really have a good night and enjoy the heat.
Good night.
Not very hot here.
Really? You're
No,
up really north, right?
we're way up north. Yep. The Lake Superior is just down the road for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm just in the middle of the state, and it's hotter here than it is in Pennsylvania, so.
No, we're about 50 degrees, maybe getting cooler now. We're going to get rain here in a little bit. So
like
I'm also sitting outside enjoying it while I can.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, I'm glad you survived the week.
Yes, I did. Barely, but I did.
What's your son going to do now?
He's going to Northern Michigan